Hello, ActiveSage here on the Sage channel, and I was recently starting to build a pretty large cathedral-esque structure. You can see a little piece of it in front of us here, and I sort of ran into a bit of a snag. Now, for once, it wasn't that the game was lagging or that the LODs of sloped blocks were driving me mad. No, for once it was just the fact that with the new DirectX 11 system, sometimes when you're building, things look pretty dark. Now, right now, it actually looks decent, but when I was working on it earlier, I was having trouble actually seeing what I was doing in these darker areas here. And you'll especially notice it when you're working with these mirroring fields and stuff like that. So, to go ahead and make up for that, I've gone ahead and built a few ships here. Maybe at some point we'll have, when you're in spectator mode and you press L, it'll go into some sort of night vision mode or change the lighting. But for now, I think these will do as a nice alternative. What are they? They're lighting drones. So if I go ahead and do an F6, we can go ahead and go from left to right here and take control of them. I actually built this one here first, followed by that one, followed by this one, followed by the last one. But I'm going to go through them left to right because they basically, well, there's the ones I like more farther to the left the way we're looking now. So, first drone right here, you can see it's a pretty damn simple thing. I actually do like this one a fair bit, so it's a bit wrong to say I don't like this one the most. But you can see it's got 4 lights, 4 thrusters, a camera. The camera is actually attached to the remote control block. Behind that remote control block is the antenna, so if we turn on our UI, you can see it's a mini drone. Followed by, I believe it is 4 reactors, so let's actually go into spectator mode and fly down here. We're going to fly inside it. Once again, it sometimes gets a bit hard to see what's going on. There we go. So once we're in here, you can see we have 4 reactors. One out. There we go. The eyes are adjusting as you'd expect now in the dark. You can see better the longer you stay in the dark. So there you go. This wasn't working the other day when I first started working on these things, so looks like they probably did it with a little tiny hotfix patch. Anyway, you can see we got like 4 little reactors in here, followed by these pipes leading all the way to the back where we have a dropper, but you can actually access it as just an inventory port by going up to it and pressing K, and then we have our 4 thrusters there. And I believe you probably noticed while we were floating through here, the gyroscope that we have stuck right here. The ship only has one, the other block at the mirroring spot is just a solid piece. So that's a pretty simple little ship. I'll go ahead and demonstrate it now. So let's fly over here. You can see the reflectivity on the metal there. Again, that didn't seem to be so apparent the other day when I was doing this, so maybe these drones aren't so useful, but I'm not just going to throw them out. One could still find them useful when exploring, let's say, caves or something of that sort. So I now have control over the drone, so I can go ahead and fly it down. I'm using F9, by the way, if you don't know, to control this drone while remaining in spectator mode. And let's fly the drone up to here, and press our number 2 button to turn on the lights, and there you go. You can see now we've lit up the area we would want to light up. Pretty damn cool. And in fact, it also just looks pretty damn cinematic to be moving about this drone. The lighting with the latest update seems to be fantastic. I love it. You get a few issues with the latest update where the lights will seem a bit odd when you have tons and tons of lights, where they seem like they're overlaying their planes a bit strangely, like there, the shadows kind of clipped out. But overall, it's a pretty fantastic thing, and even though it means we're having some darker areas, it does mean that we can now use little camera drones that look pretty damn awesome to light up areas. So this is this tiny little drone. Once again, though, you can press 1 and actually go ahead and access its view if you would like to position it more manually. And you can see we've flown it far enough away that if we go ahead and do the F9 again, actually we'll do F8, you can see that the lighting that is shining on this drone isn't really showing up. Or the lighting that's shining on this drone, the lighting that it's shining isn't really showing up at this distance. I could tweak it, but we're not going to. So let's go ahead and shut those lights off. Press T to deactivate control of that. And let's go ahead and grab the next one. And as I said, this was the first one that I built. You can see it sort of has a more hefty design. And if we were to actually go ahead and copy it, you'll notice that, well, they didn't do it this time, but earlier all these little lights were changing directions a bit. The rotors seem to be extremely finicky with this one, so let's actually go ahead and, where's the one I just copied? I guess this is it right here in front of me. So we can actually go ahead and look in here, and I was trying to set all these rotors at a 45-degree angle. There we go. I was like, why isn't this working? And then it shows up the second I start flying away. So I was trying to set all these rotors at a 45-degree angle, and to do that I figured I'd go ahead and set them to 45 for lower limit, 45 for upper, and it would lock them right at 45 pretty much. Well, unfortunately that didn't quite happen, or even setting one at 45 and letting it spin around until it hits that didn't quite happen. And in fact, sometimes, or every time, they just sit there until I assign something to them. But you can see, even though this rotor is set to, well, this one's set to 75 and actually made it pretty close to that. But a lot of them were, yeah, like this one, it's at 31, but earlier I had them at 45 and they weren't going there. It's possible, once again, that it's been changed since I was messing with these yesterday, or the other day. It is out of limits. Turn it back on, should spin around. Let's see if it actually stops. See, it stopped at 84. So, bit odd. But let's just go ahead and use this drone right now and select it right here. So 12 rotor light drone. That's why it's got such a strange name. Take control over it. There we are. And fly it forward. And once again, we can go ahead and turn on its lights. And you can see this one was designed to illuminate a much larger area with with less precision. But you can see that we can fly this one around and illuminate a huge area. Also, this one's inner workings I'll go over in 1 minute, but it does have more than one gyroscope, and it does also have, of course, an antenna, a camera, and a large reactor. So you'll see all that in a minute. But as you can see, this thing allows you to light up a larger working area. And I'd say that the number of gyroscopes I've got in there actually makes it a bit hard to control. So I probably really theoretically should cut down maybe one of the gyroscopes. But as you can see, it illuminates a much larger area. So you could work on this whole area here with only one lighting drone. So let's go ahead and shut its lights off and maneuver this one over. It's a very strange thing. It almost reminds me of those strange like piloting aliens from the Dune movies with their big worm-like body and humanoid head. But let's go ahead and deactivate that, fly over and just look at the inner workings and close-up view of it. So I got all the rotors I was just talking about, got our camera in the middle, 2 braking thrusters on the front, 2 thrusters on the side, top, bottom, and right, and 4 on the back, as well as a little control panel. Unlike the one we were just looking at, the interior here is all just solid metal with these thrusters sticking out the sides. Then we have this large front section that we've been using. And you can see our antenna stuck right there. Above it is a reactor here, and if we fly down to the bottom, another reactor here. And then those are actually the large reactors themselves connected in. So it's got more than enough power, probably far more than it should really need. And then as for gyroscopes, you can see we got 3 on this side and 3 on the other side. So massive overkill on gyroscopes. I don't think I'll actually bother tweaking it because I'm not too happy with this design and the way the rotors seem to be a bit finicky with me. I don't really feel like spending much more time with it, especially when there's other things that accomplish the job fairly well. So moving on, we have this large thing right here. And let's actually go ahead and once again take control over it. So this is going to be the grid drone or grid light drone. And there we go. We should hope F9 should have control over it. There we are. And you can see right away it moved forward a bit quicker and it rotates around and everything because it's got 2 large thrusters on the back, 8 thrusters in every other direction, 8 small ones I should say. So you can see there all the thrusters are set up. And let's go ahead and turn its lighting on, shall we? Let's do a F8 really quickly and just position our camera so we can see it pretty well and then do our F9. So let's turn on our lighting and there you go. This thing basically, even though the lights aren't rotated about, it can still illuminate a pretty large area just because there's so many lights and they're spread out a fair enough bit. Might be a bit overkill, frankly, and, well, yeah, it pretty much is overkill, but it is an interesting looking ship, I personally think, with the square main body, which looks very industrial, and then all that open space that it's got right there, where it's actually, I believe, has its antenna positioned, and then, of course, all of these lights on the front. And if we fly it towards our spectator camera, you can see that we do indeed have our camera right at the front of it, so this, once again, can be piloted remotely with ease. And let's actually go ahead and exit this and fly over to it and just show you how its inner workings are. As I mentioned, it's got 4 thrusters, or 8 thrusters for reverse as well. I believe I mentioned that. And basically that's one of the reasons it has this large gap here, is so they can fire those thrusters and still have all the lights at the front without anything really there. The light structure is, of course, pretty, well, relatively evenly spaced to give you a fair amount of lighting. And of course, it's not a big solid mass, so it looks pretty cool, I think. And of course, it was a horse. It is managing to have lots of negative space there and save you from having to carry around a huge amount of metal. Here we go. You can see this is kind of dark here. We can't really see what we're working at, so we could go ahead and copy one of these right now and place it in there. Ah, there we go. Now we can see what we're working on. much better, as our frame rate starts to chug. And so let's go ahead and fly inside of here. And you see at the very back, between those thrusters, we did have one of those little connection ports. And then that carries on all the way back, or on the sides of it, we've gone ahead and stuck 4 gyroscopes, followed by 2 large reactors that can, of course, feed stuff through one another. So all of these ships that we've seen so far are all survival ready. If you wanted to go ahead and take these into survival, you can go ahead and pump stuff through the pipes. Mind you, you might have to add a starter engine to get them going. At the top here, you can see the antenna is right here through this little gap. And then on the other side, we have that gap mirrored, basically. So the entire ship has a, well, not exactly a symmetrical design, but a repeating design of these little indentations for the thrusters. And then because we don't want 2 extra thrusters here, we just have the indentation with a control port there at the top. And then on the bottom, we have 2 of them, just to keep it all symmetrical. That's the basic gist of this ship. It's a pretty nice thing. Of course, we can go ahead and fly it around a bit more if we pleased. It does have a pretty decent amount of speed, so let's get control me again. There we are. Actually, F9, of course. Which one did we take control over? Ah, the back one. So we can go ahead and fly it about. And as I said, it has a fair amount of control. I actually like how fast this one moves. You could almost imagine it being some sort of combat craft if I just cut off the lighting array and retweaked it about to, well, make it a combat craft. Maybe stick lasers on there or something. Well, modded pack. But for now, I am pretty happy with it. Anyway, let's move on from that one. Let's turn off the lights on that one. And in fact, let's go ahead back to F8 and delete this one here so we can cut down on our lag once again. And let's go ahead and find the last one right here. Now, it's a lighting array, you'll notice. So let's actually just copy this one really quick. Paste it over here, and while we're aiming at that, rotate it around. That way it snaps at 90-degree angles, and 2 more little rotates. There we go. And so if I paste this in right here, you can see that the lighting array between this one here and this one here is pretty much the same. The only thing missing from the one on my left is these little guys right here. I basically cut those arms off and then made the block behind that light I was just aiming at a curved one. That way it looks like it's actually holding it on there a bit better. So pretty much the same thing, except for the body is obviously much, much smaller. And we have our antenna back here, the camera still at the front. And then where is all of our gizmos and gadgets? Well, at the back, we have a connecting port. If we fly through here, unfortunately, they're not calling this triangle right here. I don't know why that. It's next to another triangle. If we fly through here, though, you do see that we have... actually, it's pretty much impossible to show, but we are in creative, so it's easy enough to go ahead and copy this over, disable our symmetry field, and then remove some blocks just so we can show what's actually inside there. There we go. Much better. You can see that we have our connector pipe. The 4-way connector pipes are actually 6-way connector pipes with 6 reactors. Again, maybe a little bit overkill, followed by our gyroscope, singular one for this ship, remote control block, and an antennae. So there you go. You can go ahead and have that all set up so you can control it as per usual. So let's go ahead and delete this one. I didn't keep... oh, there we go. The backup is right here. I forgot. I thought I deleted the actual only one I had. Let's do a little bit of cleanup really quick, just because it's ill-advised to have these little pieces just floating about. And let's go ahead and take this one for a spin, just as we have done the other ones. And position our camera here. Do a K. Select it from the pull-down grid light drone 2. Take control over it. And of course an F9 so we can control the drone while still in spectator. And you can see this drone, even though it is much smaller and has far fewer thrusters, it is still extremely quick because, of course, it has its wonderful, let's rotate our view a little bit more, lightweight body. So since it is much lighter, it of course doesn't even need as much propulsion to get it about. So let's go ahead and turn on its lights, and you can see, even though it's missing, I believe it was 8 lights compared to its bigger brother, it still can illuminate an area pretty easily, and of course still has a great amount of speed. I think this is probably the one I'm going to be using the most, maybe in tandem with the very first one. And there you go, you can see the lighting issue there, where apparently it's far clip field, it's running into issues there. Let's just do a quick tweak test, shall we? We're going to select the lighting group, and we're going to go ahead and up the radius. That apparently hasn't done anything. Lighting group and fall off, I think we'll just make it softer. And I can't seem to scroll down. What is going on? Don't know what was up with that. What else do we have? Nothing really else here. Up its intensity. That doesn't really help us. So, yeah, we can't seem to change how far the lights will shine. So, still need some work the lighting does in this DirectX 11 update. But it's still pretty awesome. And of course, we can now use these things to light up darker areas. Anyway, guys, that's it. I just thought I'd share these little buggers with you. I'll probably, oh dear God, I'll probably put a few of them out on the Steam Workshop. Probably this little guy I'm flying, its bigger brother, and the smallest one. Either I'll do that, or just put this world up. I might just go ahead and put the world up, and maybe just the 2 blueprints. Don't know, not sure yet. Just go ahead and check the description below if there's nothing there. I haven't uploaded it yet. And go ahead and always check my Steam Workshop. There will be a link down there just to my Steam Workshop, so you can see whatever I've uploaded already there. And guys, that's it. Thanks a bunch for watching. And if you don't know, a quick way to get out of a camera, let's say if I selected this, is just to do an F9 or an F6 to go back to your character, and you'll still remain in control over the ship instead of pressing T. Something I'd forgotten and relearned today and is very useful. Anyways, that's it. Once again, thanks a bunch for watching, and I shall see you guys next time. Ta-ta.